You know what I have to say today is nothing blows my mind anymore. Uh, this is Wakia, the desert shaman in the shaman's den in the southern tip of Nevada. I don't know what I'm going to call this video because I'm going to talk about a guy that burned himself up. Uh, what do I call it? Burning Man Revisited, or maybe the Vietnam era revisited. In case you haven't heard, and I'm sure you have, and a lot of people probably haven't, don't know what it's all about. Some Air Force guy, airman, did a streaming video about immolation himself, burning himself up. Immolation, it's called. Back in the Vietnam era days, in the 60s and 70s, Buddhist monks were doing that same thing, protesting the Vietnam War. You know, people's minds were blown back then with the Buddhist monk thing, wondering if they were, immune to pain, which a lot of them probably were, just totally out of the body, whatever. But this is a whole different ball of wax. Some young guy decides that because he can't, his conscience won't let him be deployed to Gaza and take part in the genocide. See, that's what this is all about, and the mainstream media tries to cover this up. Their headlines are that just some guy burned himself up in front of the Israeli embassy, which leaves out, in the header or in the headlines, leaves out, and some people just read the headlines, leaves out the fact that he was doing it for a purpose to protest what's going on in Palestine and the genocide of the Palestinian people. So he poured gasoline all over himself and pulled out a lighter and set himself on fire, became a human torch. What a way to go. I wouldn't want to go that way. That takes either, I don't know. And I think that he thought or hoped that he would make a statement. As he was dying, he was screaming, "Free Palestine." Now here I am talking about Gaza on one minute and thinking that that's just the ultimate mind blower, what they're doing over there. And it is. It is the ultimate mind blower. Slaughter before your very eyes. And then you got this offshoot of this guy doing this to protest it, and it being covered up by the mainstream media, of course. I'm not just going to talk about this incident, though. I'm going to talk about, I don't know, if you do kind of a review of history sometimes. History repeats itself, see? If you want to figure out what's going on right now, as much as you can, using history, you have to look at history. You have to be familiar with different factional movements that were happening throughout history. I'm going to bring up the term Zionism now. I'm finding that Zionism is interwoven since the 1800s, is interwoven in all kinds of affairs of men. Zionism. Okay, what's Zionism? A lot of people don't know. What's Zionism? It's a nationalistic movement, is what it is, and nation building, nation securing. In other words, A good part of it was basically formed at the time that Israelis wanted a state or a homeland, and it was all geared towards recognition of the fact that they needed a homeland and that these people should never be set upon again because of the Holocaust and the genocide of the Jews in Germany. I won't put a number on it because there's a lot of question about that, so I'm just going to forget that right now. It's out there. But the whole thing with the Zionist movement was Zion, return to Zion. Let's take a boat. There's a movie called Exodus that's kind of about that. Of course, it's got the slant on it. But as you look at Zionism, you find out that it is interwoven in all kinds of affairs, like I said before. And you have all kinds of factions, okay? And there's different tribal factions that are involved. The Khazars, or the Khazars, I guess it's called, Khazars. The Khazarian Jews, question about that, where they came from, and they're in Europe, and they have a mafia. But the Zionist element infiltrates everything, okay? And so, you have periods in history like the Bolshevik Revolution, for example, and you have the Ottoman Empire being overthrown and the British element supporting certain factions. I'll just say factions right now. Faction against faction, tribes against tribes, tribes against tribes aligned with the British and trying to overthrow the Turks in that period of time. And then around that same period of time, this is like First World War, you have the Bolshevik Revolution and the killing of the Tsar and the murdering of his family. And the Bolshevik Revolution was heavily influenced by this Zionist, this nationalist, a different kind of what people think of as Jews. It's more of a government thing, a mafia thing, a movement that was formed. So that's what we're looking at here with this Zionist overlay. I mean, the Zionist control, actually. And I know a lot of people, get confused about are Jews bad people, or are Zionists different than Jews? Zionists are Jews, all right, and it's also that it includes other people. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking, but it all originated around this thing about the Jews being God's chosen people, and they were set upon, and they've been set upon in history for decades, millennia. I mean, that's their middle name, being set upon, Jew being set upon by their own God. Most of the time it was, they always said that if they were set upon, it was a punishment from their own God, Yahweh. And there's this definite, almost like an inferiority complex, which is kind of funny when they say that they're God's chosen people. It goes beyond an inferiority complex. It has to do with, when you boil it right down to it, it's all about money, isn't everything? A lot of it is just about money, all right? Money grubbing people. And then you have thrown in there the theological part, which is basically there's so much room for discussion on that. It's unbelievable, and I've discussed it before. The whole thought of creationism and apocalypticism and apocalypticism? Yeah, I think that's a word. Well, I make up my own words anyway. Doesn't matter. I have my own language too, actually. Or maybe I just downloaded it from, when I channel. I start speaking in tongues and I'm like, okay. But anyway, that's it. I mean, that's basically starting off with what's going on in the world today. See, Zionism is closely associated with, AIPAC, okay, and other lobbying groups. And what are lobbying groups? Well, they're people that bribe. Okay. I mean, if you really want to put it in truthful terms, and I'm always true, they're people that bribe and extort other people. All right. This is the Jewish lobby. The Zionist lobby. They have contributed to every congressman's run for office, or after they got into office, they have supported them and funded them. So basically everybody in Congress, except a very few, are bought by this AIPAC or this Jewish lobby or this Zionist nationalist mafia. You can't get around the fact that this is a mafia. Any organization that is, criminal organization is a sort of mafia, and this is definitely a criminal organization. They kill hundreds of thousands of people, millions. And now they're doing it blatantly right in front of your very eyes, just saying this is what we do. We kill people. We kill tribal people that we don't like. We're racist. Now, this is coming from the same people that where this nationalist movement, this Zionist movement started. This is coming from the same people that, tried to escape Germany and went floating on a boat and ended up in the state of Palestine over there and taking it over, all right? Stealing it in leagues with Britain and the United Nations and all that good shit. Now, I've drawn comparisons here, when we're talking about, in the first place, if you really want to boil this down, if they were so afraid of extinction because of a genocide, what the hell are they doing it now for to other people? And if you want to compare genocides, that's nothing. It's not. Look at the Native American people, and I always draw this comparison, and I always will, because I have that blood in me. Look at the millions and millions of people, millions of indigenous people that were on this land that were erased, killed, genocided, stuck on reservations, tortured, called savages. Hey, what are they doing in Gaza today? They're calling those people savages. We got another ethnic cleansing here, another takeover. And it's about land, too. Same thing. It was the land with the natives on Turtle Island here. And it's the land over in Gaza. We want to make that beachfront property, baby. That's for the elite, that's for the chosen few. Man, I get so sick of hearing that term, that biblical term. It's sickening. And where does, now, when I was talking about the association with the lobbyists, with the congressmen, it's not just the congressmen, it's presidents, it's corporations, it's the mainstream media. They've infiltrated everywhere. They've bought off everything. Rupert Murdoch, and guess what? What lineage does he come from? What lineage does Soros come from? What lineage does Bezos come from? What lineage does Blinken come from? They have infiltrated everywhere. They've taken it over completely. They have complete control over all aspects of, so when you sit there and ask some of these people on the talk show, ask dumbass questions, like, why is America giving, not stopping, why isn't America demanding a ceasefire and stopping the genocide over in Gaza? Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they going for their two-state solution, which is just bullshit? That will never fucking happen. I don't know, man. It's troubling. America is Israel. America is Israel. It's bought and paid for by the Zionists. So there's no difference between Israel. Is Israel a state of America and the United States, or is the state of Israel owning and being a part of, and lock, stock, and barrel owning the United States? Okay. What is it, all one state? Is that the 51st state or whatever? I mean, it's hard to differentiate, between the two. There is no way to do that. It's all connected. It's all solid. And so that will give you kind of an idea of what's going on in the world. I hope this video, it goes way back in all kinds of conflicts. Like I said, the Ottoman Empire and the World War I and II, and the money grubbers making money off both sides. It's so now what do we, and history repeats itself over and over and over again. Time after time after time, it keeps repeating itself. And it's all just like a giant collage or puzzle or collage or a piece of art splattered against canvas. It's a painting. It's a movie. Okay. Reel after reel. We played that reel, so let's play this other reel over again. Only we'll just put a different twist on it. Let's just stick in another reel, and that's why everything seems so fucking boring, okay? Because once you realize this, you go, oh, yeah, there's that reel again. I've seen this movie before, or I've read about this movie, or maybe you even saw the movie in a movie on the internet. There's some good movies out there about this, okay? One of them is Dr. Zhivago. Okay, that's a good movie. And Lawrence of Arabia. Movies like that before Hollywood got too put too much propaganda in there so that you couldn't tell truth from reality. But back then, I don't know, I guess that was in the 70s or whenever those movies came out. They were a little bit more truthful, and you could garner bits and information off of different movies, historical movies, and historians even watch movies because it's an expression of what was going down at the time. It's a feeling, an expression. Now, yes, the real truths are always hidden, but it's good to review things sometimes, or read a book, or read about conflicts in Arabia and the Middle East and Eurasia, all right, and Europe, okay, and tribal factions, focusing in on that, focus in on that. In a way, you got to get to the point where you look at life as like it's all a trip. Embrace it, almost like, okay, history repeating it. If you look at history, it does give you a different slant. Gives you a little bit different slant on things, because then you go, here we go again, and nothing is surprising. Okay, and it's really less worrisome if you look at it like, here I am in life, and here is the duality and the right and the wrong of it, and we all know better that are enlightened, okay, that the wrong and right of it, there is no wrong and right, like Rumi says. Beyond ideas of right and wrong, somewhere there's a field, and I'll meet you there. I love that quote. If you read that quote, then you will start to understand, and you understand that quote, then you will start to understand Rumi, the great Persian mystic. Everything is tribal, Everything is so it's a matter of looking at this stuff like I don't know, when you have a romance with life, let's say. Let's just step out on a different level here. When you have a romance with life, it's like a lover, all right? And is your lover always one way or the other, yin or yang? Is your lover naughty or nice in temperament? You know what I'm saying? But it's still your lover, whoever it is, whatever they are, all right? There's always the duality there. There's always and there's always negative and positive, all right? And that's kind of how life is. If you embrace life as your lover, you accept it because it's your lover, and we're conscious, and we're aware, and we're breathing, and there's a lot of things in life that are overwhelmingly beautiful, like nature, for example. But it's all one big swirling mass of paint, pastels, whatever, coming from the commander-in-chief. When I say commander-in-chief, I don't mean the president, I mean the commander-in-chief of the universe. And just remember that all these peons, again, are that are between the supreme commander, and that could be, I look at it as God, goddess. So it's really commanders. The Shiva Shakti element, just spewing out a beautiful arrangement of what we call life, or what we're floating around here, the ether. So despite all this stuff that's going on, the point I guess I'm trying to make with this is, despite all this stuff that's going on, all the control of certain countries and overthrows, and let's also figure in there revolutions, because that's what always happens when shit gets too much pressure, when the beam has too much of a load, as the I Ching would say, when the beam has too much of a load and it's starting to bend, what's going to happen? It's going to break unless you alleviate the pressure. Unless you alleviate it, take it away. And that's where we're at as far as the world that surrounds us is where the beam is under intense pressure and it's about to break. And that's exactly what happens with the fall of civilizations. And now another thing that happens is when that beam gets put under pressure, if you look at the beam as people under subjection and tyranny, then when they get to that point of stress, what arises out of that is fighting back and revolution, the overthrow of existing paradigms, governments, whatever. And that has happened so many times. Look at history and look at how it came into effect and what caused it. And you will understand that this is exactly, just because it hasn't been on America's shores before. And when I say the chickens come home to roost from time to time, America has pretty much been unscathed, has been the predator for a long time since the coming over here and killing the natives. They've been a predator for a long time, taking parts of Mexico and whatever. And when I say the chickens come home to roost, it's like they've been, the American people have pretty much escaped, except for the Civil War and other things. Having war on their shores, in their backyard, on their streets, in their villages, roving gangs, roaming factions, out of control factions, like in the Bolshevik Revolution. In the Bolshevik Revolution, they went in and took these people's houses that were Victorian type houses or mansions and that type of thing. They took people's houses and took the people that owned those houses and stuck them in one little room and moved 17 more families in, took the place over, said, hey, you got to share. But the conditions that arose from that became unbearable, like no firewood and no food and no water and no cleanliness and so again, when you look at history, you get the big picture. So look at history. Look at it. Don't be just, people just go on and on in their daily routine. That's why they don't know anything about Ukraine or where the fuck it is even on a map. Or Russia or Eurasia. Eurasia? What's that? This is what we're dealing with here. This is the dumbed down, don't want to know, don't want to investigate, don't want to expand my knowledge or intellect, don't want to expand my consciousness This is what we're dealing with. And the only time that people react in a way that's violent is when their personal world gets shit on. And then they start waking up, or their mindset or their worldview or their belief systems collapse. And then, that's when a revolution arises. So if you put all this together, it's just history, and there's going to be a revolution, or there's going to be, I understand that it's the whole world now. The I Ching, I threw the I Ching the other day, the ancient Chinese oracle, and it told me that darkness was surrounding everywhere. And that it's time to cling to spiritual values, and that your source. And it also told me that the best way to get through this is what I've always said, and this is right from the oracle's mouth, detachment and letting go of outcomes. Now, Rumi, who was a Persian mystic, he embraced life, and he had beautiful poetry, and he had shit going on around him in his time too, wars and all kinds of factions and battles and the whole thing. So anyway, I know I'm ranting, but I covered a lot of ground today, and I always like to do that. When you talk with friends, you can cover a whole shitload of ground in one phone call if you're on the phone. I mean, you can cover history and what's going on and the answer to it, and the spiritual aspect and all. You can cover a whole shitload of stuff in one video. And so people that don't watch these videos from beginning to end, and a lot of people just jump in at the beginning, they're like short fuse people. They can't take they can't take intellect and discourse and conversation, or advice for that matter. And that's perfectly okay. So anyway, I guess I'll leave on that note. If you want to donate to this channel, do it. And the algorithm thing with the thumbs up, that's appreciated. I don't know. I'll put connections to my books and a place you can donate in the show notes. How's that? spiritofcrazyhorse.com. Later.